Castro's Pool Service. What am I saying? Check. I'd like to say thank you to our sponsor, Castro's Pool Service and Repair. Phone number 209-675-5418. I am Castro's Pool Service and Repair. Thanks. The Old Grappler just awarded my blue belt. I've been coaching wrestling for about 14 years now. When I get in there, it is like everything just goes away. Like you're in there coaching on the mat for Jiu-Jitsu. It's a way of therapy. The Old Grappler.
Redo.
Ready whenever you are.
All right. Good. It's ready.
Yep.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
All right. We're back with the Old Grappler. Today, my guest is Ed. I'll let you introduce yourself, Ed. Let them know where you train, what belt level you are, and we'll go from there. Cool.
First of all, just thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah.
To be asked. So I'm Ed Soares. I'm a purple belt. I train in Redwood City at Peninsula Self-Defense, and we're a Jean-Jacques Machado Academy.
Nice.
And I'm a purple belt. Been training for about 4 years now.
4 years. Wow, that's good.
Yeah.
Good. So what got you into Jiu-Jitsu?
Well, my professor, Eric Acha, he's retired law enforcement, 22 years. And he is a great dude. And he had been trying to get me to do Jiu-Jitsu for as long as he's been doing it. He's been over, 15, 20 years now. And I was that atypical guy that I don't need Jiu-Jitsu. I was always a stand-up fighter and didn't think I needed to go to the ground and wrestle with another dude. I would just use my hands, which served me well throughout the years.
Mm-hmm.
And he had, him and a lot of other cops were like, you got to try this Jiu-Jitsu. And I was just, don't need it. So about 4 years ago, I was a canine officer and my dog, we did a lot of outreach. And Professor Eric had asked, hey, can you bring your dog by our academy where I have a summer kids camp? And my dog does a lot of stuff with kids and veterans and stuff like that. So I brought him over and there's probably, 15, 20 kids on the mat. And we did our little presentation and they did some moves and stuff. I'm like, these kids look like they're having fun. So I told her, look, I'll take a private. Let me just take one private, So I set the private up for the next day. It was my day off and I showed up, he gave me a new gi and he was just showing me some moves and he's like, lay on your back. All right. You got side control. And now Eric's like 165, 170 pound little dude. And at the time, I was about 260. And he put pressure on me like he was a 300 pound guy. And I tapped to side pressure to this little guy. And I'm like, damn. I said, if this little dude can do this to me just by pressure,
right?
I said, I need to learn this magical shit. And and I'm like, man, he just outclassed me and everything he did. I couldn't do anything to him. So I signed up. Before I left, I'm like, sign me up. I'm done. Just sign me up. And I was going 6 days a week then.
Wow.
Sometimes twice a day. I just went down a rabbit hole for years and I was addicted. It's right after that.
It's funny you talk about the gentleman, 160 pounds, because our instructor at our school is maybe 155, 160 tops, right? And he was showing pressure, or we're rolling, he's putting pressure on me. And I'm like, damn. After the roll, I told him, like, coach, that out of everybody I've rolled with so far, that was the most pressure that I felt. And he's, well, thank you. Like all 155 soaking wet, got the wrestling coach to say the pressure was good. So that it's crazy how once you understand how to implement pressure, how forceful it can be.
And where to apply it and when to apply it and how to put your body. And it's like, I'm still learning. I'm pro belt, so.
Right. Well, you got to learn something every day, right? Or you're falling behind.
That's right. The day you stop learning is the day we're dead.
So you talked about you believing in your stand-up and not needing the ground.
Mhm.
But were you in martial arts before jiu-jitsu? Before?
So, like a lot of us, as kids, I did a lot of taekwondo. And
Okay.
grew up here in Gilroy, and I trained under Chuck Sinini.
Mhm.
I did his taekwondo and went through that. And, I wrestled in high school. I've done some boxing, and, my wife, she's a boxer. And I've always done some sort of combat sport throughout my life. But it was just something about jiu-jitsu that just, I was like, I want to roll around with another sweaty guy, for fun. But just like I said, as soon as I was able to get that pride with him, it just collected. And I was like, that's all I want to do now.
So now you're purple belt. You went to that first class, and we're going to kind of blend your 148 jiu-jitsu.
Mhm.
So that is your law enforcement. So the 148 jiu-jitsu, I read it, but I'll let you explain what the 148 is.
So 148 is for the penal code in California penal code. And
Mhm.
148 is resisting, obstructing, and delaying a police officer in the course of his duties, and which gives us the right to go hands-on with somebody
Right.
in our job to effect arrest. So, and the funny story with that is I did not come up with this name. When I was a white belt, my coach, Professor Acha, he's like, one day you're going to open up your own academy. And when you do, you should name it 148 Jiu-Jitsu. And I'm like, that's a sick name.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm a white belt. That's way,
Yeah, years down the road.
But when I finally was like, okay, I'm close to retirement. What am I going to do? I love jiu-jitsu. I love teaching. I love teaching kids. Let's start something. I was like, 148 jiu-jitsu. And you never let you forget it. That's
So typically we haven't had law enforcement on, but how has jiu-jitsu helped you in law enforcement?
It's helped me tremendously in different aspects, and so much that I look back and I'm like, if I had jiu-jitsu as a rookie cop, I'm going on 22, 23 years now. If I had jiu-jitsu as a rookie cop back then, my whole career probably would be different. Being a stand-up guy, using my fists and stuff to, fight. A lot of the fights in law enforcement, there's going to be injuries, especially if you're a stand-up guy and somebody's fighting you and you're fighting for your life. There's going to be broken bones. There's going to be cuts and scrapes, on me and the suspect. But since and through my career, I worked a lot of specialty units. I worked GOAT, narcotics, gangs, undercover. So you're dealing with the worst of the worst,
right?
And bad things happen. And a lot of times you're going to have to tangle with somebody. But since training jiu-jitsu, I've had numerous fights on the streets that I've implemented jiu-jitsu, and nobody's got hurt. I didn't get hurt. The suspect didn't get hurt. There wasn't a cut. There wasn't a drop of blood. To the point where when I have to go hands-on with somebody, it's to the point where it's almost like I'm playing with a little kid. Where
just through your training.
I look at some of the videos of me tussling with guys because we wear the body cameras, and the other guys are wearing cameras, and I'm smiling because I'm just playing with the guy. I'm just relaxed. If I need to do more or something, I'm just using the shoulder lock just to hold them.
Right.
Where before, to gain compliance, you may use a fist or you use an elbow.
And you're good.
So I'm actually playing with these guys, these suspects that before I would have used some kind of force, a fist, an elbow, a knee strike, to get them to comply. Fully legal, but it can leave a mark. It can't hurt the suspect. Not that we're trying to, but we have to use enough force to affect that. With jiu-jitsu, I haven't thrown one punch in the last 4 years. I haven't thrown one elbow in the last 4 years, or one knee strike. I've used strictly jiu-jitsu going hands-on with these guys. And when when you train with an untrained person, it's unfair. It's kind of unfair when you have the superpower that you can do whatever you want to this person,
Mhm.
this untrained person, and most suspects are untrained, that you just hold them. You just hold them in a position, either Kimura or whatever position you want to put them in, and you just hold them and you wait until they either gas out or you get another guy to handcuff them. But there's, I've seen video of myself doing this on the street, and I'm smiling, I'm laughing, just calm, calm down, stop resisting,
Right.
And jiu-jitsu gives you that superpower to remain calm, to remain comfortable in uncomfortable situations,
Right.
and to use pressure and use control, and not you've trained so many hours, so many hundreds of hours with guys that are trained, and that this is what you do. You're not gassing out, you're not out of control, you're not yelling. There's no aggression.
Right.
It's just another day in the office. You're just trying to take somebody in control. So having jiu-jitsu the last 4 years has saved me and the suspects a lot of hospital bills.
That's a good way of putting it. So your 148. This is your school.
Yes.
Your academy.
Yeah.
I see that your academy does some seminars, and they're mostly law enforcement based. Is that like
Yes.
first
responders? So we work a lot with BJJ cops.
Mhm.
We just did a seminar not too long ago where they came to Redwood City, and I think we had over 50 cops on the mat training and helping them out. But we're the 148. Once I do retire next year, we want to work, have our own academy here locally, but also work a lot with law enforcement.
I think that is tremendous what you're doing. But like my school or our school there in Los Gatos, Strength Fitness, we have a couple of cops that come in, and I watch them roll through our practices, and I even I sent one of them a message of your post of the seminar in Napa, and he's like stoked on going, right? But like watching them, and I'm like, Jesus, I understand that they have other ways of subduing people, right? Tasers, what have you, more help.
Yeah.
But if they were in a one-on-one situation, I'm like, Jesus, like, are they safe?
Yeah.
So what you're doing, I think, with the BJJ cops and what have you, I think that's just tremendous to give them more opportunities to train, because looking at how they're coming out, like maybe they're not enough training on them.
Yeah. Well, I'm a huge proponent where I think every cop should at least be a blue belt within the first year. Have it trained more in the police academy, have it trained the first year, where if you get to that blue belt level, even if you don't take jiu-jitsu past blue belt, at least you have that core knowledge of position and control and that mindset of jiu-jitsu. And I think if more cops are trained in jiu-jitsu, we'd have less uses of force, less lawsuits, less complaints, less people getting hurt. I think the mindset of jiu-jitsu helps law enforcement more than I think than the administrators realize right now. And I'm trying to change that.
And like, I think the people at the top, per se, don't see quite yet the benefits, right? Like, I see these posts from BJJ cops because I'm in that rabbit hole of jiu-jitsu, right? So I'm like, I watch everything, and I watch videos all the time, but I see that through the BJJ cops, sometimes like situation's not ideal for the police officer or whoever, and they're untrained in that situation, and the suspect or the bad guy has an advantage per se. And I just looking at it that, and then seeing like the guys that come into our gym that are doing something about it, right? wish that they had more opportunity, something like what you guys are doing. So that's super good that you guys are doing that. And like I said, I sent him the message through IG, like, hey, look into this. And I talked to him a couple weeks ago, and he's like, man, yeah, like I'm stoked. I want to sign up. Like, I just got to make sure it works with my schedule. But you know, I don't think that there's enough opportunities like what you guys are doing for
cops.
and at the end of the day, like if you believe in the cops or you don't believe in the cops, who are you going to call first? Right? You know, cops, first responders, like even I would say like EMTs, if they have someone that's hostile, like it would be something decent for them to understand to like say you have someone that's doped up. What if they have that person in the ambulance or on the stretcher and they're not subdued per se? What are they going to do?
Yeah. How do you control that person?
Yeah. So I think what you guys are doing for first responders is great. And like if we could get more people to back you guys and get the word out, then like that's bonus.
Yeah. And we wouldn't, and it's sad to say, most cops, I won't say all, but most cops are that type A personality where, they want to be the macho big guy, and jiu-jitsu is humbling, as and to take a new cop that, maybe just get out of the academy or got, 1 to 5 years on, and to tell him to go train jiu-jitsu, you gotta pack away that ego a little bit because you're gonna get humbled. And you're gonna get, you may be a 25, 26-year-old in shape cop, but you're gonna get tapped up by a 16-year-old female, purple belt.
Yeah,
it may happen. And if you're gonna let that bother you, you're not gonna last long in jiu-jitsu. So I think we need to get through that stigma of the bravado of the law enforcement and let them know that, you're going to suck in the beginning and it's going to suck to be beat up by, people half your age or a female that's just a phenom.
right.
We need to get past that. If they get past that, I think jiu-jitsu will take a bigger hold in law enforcement.
It's funny. I heard, and this is coming from a police officer that they said our like policy or whatever is if they see someone with cauliflower ear to call for backup. But I come from wrestling background, and some of those guys that come into the gym, right, just wrestling them, they don't understand. They don't body mechanics, movement, pressure. Like how. So part of that is like, okay, geez, these guys are in shape. Like I'm overweight, right? But I understand pressure. I understand my body. I know how to move my body. I still compete, right? So I'm like, guys, you guys are in better shape. You guys are half my age. You should be able to subdue me. And, maybe they can, maybe, but once it's on the ground, that they haven't been so successful. And I'm new at jiu-jitsu, right? I'm not even 2 years in. So I do know more because I've been consistent, but like I look at them like, man, I wish there was a way I could help. But me meeting you, me seeing your IG and seeing those things that you're doing for first responders, me passing it on to them is me helping them. And if there's that old saying, you can lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink it, right? But so it's crazy. Both the officers that are in our class, I think we've had 3 or 4, but 2 of them came in a couple weeks back. and they hadn't been there for a little while, but one's been to more jiu-jitsu classes than the other one. And he subdued the other one,
Yeah.
right? But it's the lack of knowledge, the lack of positioning. Like, he's big, he's strong, and he's trying to push up,
Getting our part.
like, and I don't think the other one's seen that situation, but I seen it. I'm like, dude, you're setting yourself up for an armbar. Don't push up.
Yeah.
Like, but thinking because he's strong, you can muscle everybody, and that's not necessarily the case for all those situations. You could be stronger, but someone with technique that has a little bit of knowledge can keep you there.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I just recently, about a year ago, I took over our defensive tactics at our department. And I went down to LA and trained with LAPD for 2 weeks to get certified as an instructor. And now training the new guys that are coming out of the academy and stuff, and doing more. Before, our defensive tactics it was a lot of striking, a lot of kicking, a lot of baton work, no groundwork. So I've now implemented, it's 85, 90% jiu-jitsu now at our department. And these guys are coming out of the academy, and they're new guys. And I'm putting them through stressful situations, getting their heart rate up, running, pushing, let them do a little punching and kicking, but then immediately do groundwork. And to be able to see these guys, their eyes go to pancakes, where after, at the end of that little scenario, they have to roll with me for 2 minutes. And I'm going 10, 15% with them, and they're going 110%. And they're completely gassed after 2 minutes.
right.
And I'm just defense. And to be able to almost interview them afterwards. How do you feel? And I'm like, well, tell me how you feel. Well, I'm like, that was only 2 minutes.
Right.
Where I'm going, 10, 15, maybe 20% with you. A suspect's, imagine if that I was a trained jiu-jitsu guy, but I was a suspect. You're in trouble. And you see that light going off in their head going, shit, all these tools and everything I learned at the academy, they don't mean nothing if I can't blast 2 minutes on the ground with the suspect. So, I'm hoping these new guys are seeing more of the jiu-jitsu based police work,
right?
That, will help them. And I'm telling them, look, I'm twice your age, and I just rolled with you for 2 minutes, and I can talk to you like this, but you're huffing and puffing. What does that mean?
Right.
It means I'm out of shape. I'm like, no. It means you're just not trained correctly, and you see the light though.
Yeah, that's the funny thing, because like, if I'm rolling with someone that I'm allowing them to control the pace, and it's high speed, or, someone smaller that's quicker, yes, I feel after.
Yeah.
But if I'm controlling the pace and I'm implementing what I do, like, I'm in control, I'm controlling my breathing. I'm not, we can stop and do the interview, right? But it's something with the adrenaline and not understanding controlling the breathing that these people get themselves into certain situations where they're gassed out in a couple minutes and not understand that, shit, if I'm gassed out, how am I going to do anything?
Yeah. They're going to, take my gun away from me, and stuff, it's just, and, being a blue belt and having so many hours on the mat and rolling and stuff, that you're doing it so much that when you say you're a cop, you do it once, maybe twice a week at work. It's not a big deal to you because you've done it 100 hours already, just this month doing jiu-jitsu, so it trains you for that 2-3 minute fight on the street, to where, I don't know how you guys do it at your academy, but when we do rolling, we do 6-minute rolls.
We do 5.
5. Okay. So a 2-minute roll with the suspect on the street.
I think we do 5 because we can't figure out how to make the timer do more than 5. It's already pre-programmed.
That's hilarious. But yeah, if you do, so many times, your 5-minute roll, or, you may do 5-minute rolls a day.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're on the street as a cop, if you do a 2-minute fight with a suspect, that's light work.
Yeah.
It's nothing. So
And-
I just wish more cops, that light bulb would go off, and like, I need to train more.
Yeah. And I think, I would hope that this can help, in a way, that aspect of it, like getting the word out there. Competitions.
Mm-hmm.
I talked about, I still compete.
Okay.
I see medals in here. So you're still
Yes.
competing?
Yes. So I started as a white belt. I'm a very competitive guy.
Mm-hmm.
So my coach, I asked my coach, hey, do you think I'm ready to compete? He's like, oh yeah. So I went to Arizona. That's my first one through Jiu-Jitsu World League.
Mm-hmm.
And I matched for the older guys, super heavy. And I ended up taking gold. I won both my matches and took gold. And just like getting hooked into jiu-jitsu, I was hooked on competition. So I try and do like at least one competition a month. I do a lot of IBJJF. As a blue belt, just last year, I won the Worlds down in Vegas.
Nice.
That was one of my best experiences so far, winning the World Championship down in Vegas as a blue belt. So I'm going back again this year, hopefully win it as a purple belt. So
that's dope.
Yeah. So
Heck
I
yeah.
love competing. I love the adrenaline rush and the whole process of getting ready, cutting weight, showing up, being in the bullpen. You get the jitters and butterflies. As many times I've done it, you still go through that range of emotions
Mm-hmm.
before, and then you step on that mat and it's all gone, and it's just you and some other dude you don't know, and you're going to test your jiu-jitsu. And that's the best way that I found to see how I'm progressing.
Right.
Is to take somebody I have no idea who they are, what they specialize in, and use and pit my jiu-jitsu against theirs.
Right.
And I think that's a great way to test your jiu-jitsu. And I found that the more I compete, the better my jiu-jitsu gets. And I'm not afraid to lose. I'm not afraid to get out there and put it all on the line, because I always look back. I've learned more from my losses than I ever have from my wins, because you win and you're like, yeah, I won, and forget about it and put the net on the wall. But you lose, as a coach, how many times you play that match where your wrestler lost, or you play that jiu-jitsu match where I lost. How did I lose? And you become better. So, I welcome, if that guy's a better jiu-jitsu practitioner than me, then I welcome that loss, because it's going to teach me to get better.
Right.
And the more I train and the more I compete, now you start to become friends with your competitors.
Right.
A lot of the guys, like the guys that I fought up against in Vegas, I now talk to on a regular basis.
Right.
And funny story is the first match that I had in Vegas, I ended up unfortunately breaking the dude's nose. He went for a single leg. I sprawled. He turtled up, and I went for a cross collar. And as I was going across, the bone went across the bridge of his nose,
Mm-hmm.
and it snapped his nose.
Oh, yeah.
And I felt so bad. And don't laugh. But afterwards I felt horrible. You don't want to hurt somebody in your match ever. But now we're friends. We found each other on Facebook. We talk to each other all the time. We became friends. I got promoted. He got promoted to purple belt around the same time I got promoted to purple belt.
Nice.
We're friends, and it's like, what other martial art or other sport where you can go out and break a dude's nose, and now you're friends with him.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, of course you don't ever do anything to hurt anybody intentionally, but you're two guys and you're battling out. And I've met more good people and I've made more friends in competition than I have at anything else in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And these are guys who are trying to kill each other and break each other's, arm bar and choke and shit. And then you walk off the mat and you're talking about your family and your friends and you're hugging and all that shit, win or lose. Like I said, I've made more friends in competitions with guys that I've tried to submit than anything else.
Right.
That's the part about the competition that I love, that you go on, you face each other in battle, but off the mat, we're good friends.
The camaraderie after that.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Hey, can we pause for a second?
Yeah.
Sorry, I
No.
gotta take the.
No. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. So, winning worlds, when you get to that stage, like, I'm gonna guess that there's not that many nerves, not that many butterflies because of the career that you're in. But that's a grand stage, right?
That was my winning worlds. That was my second time competing in worlds. First time winning it. It's huge. I mean, the who's who of jiu-jitsu practitioners are there. All the celebrities are there. And I think my bracket was 23 people deep. And just being in the bullpen, and then, I mean, my stomach was turning, and usually in the smaller events and tournaments, I'm not really that nervous. I just go out there, do my thing. But you start looking around and you see Andre Galval walking by, or and it's like, and Megadon, you seeing this celebrity and this guy you look up to, and this guy, and your friends and family are there, and your coaches and all your teammates, and winning that was huge. And it didn't hit me until even almost later that night. My coach was texting me like, "Congratulations! Nobody can ever take that away from you. You won world championships in Vegas." And I was like, "Oh shit, I did." Because by the time you walk off and you walk to the podium, I remember one of my coaches, Jeremy, he handed me a beer as I'm walking up to the podium.
To calm the adrenaline, huh?
And I'm like, and my fucking forearms were on fire, and I couldn't feel it. And I was all, and I'm holding the beer. I wish I had a video, and I thought, I couldn't open the beer. I'm like, Coach, open it for me. And he's all, and I drank it. And I was like, it's the best tasting beer ever. And and still walking up to the podium and getting the medal, it's still surreal of winning that. And it was I was proud to do it for my academy and my professor.
Yeah, that's cool.
But it's nervous as hell.
Yeah, that, like, we talked about nerves in the last podcast, but like, I don't really get nervous, but I can see, like, in the grand, like, I do Jiu-Jitsu World League in Stockton. Yeah. It's an arena, but it's an arena that I've been in before as a wrestling coach with my wrestlers on down there. So, I don't know, it's just kind of the same thing, right? The only difference is I'm not watching and coaching my kids, I'm competing, right? But I think changing the scenario, like that's a big deal, worlds, right? Ryan, my coach he's like, you and I are going to go. Maybe not this year, but we're going. Because he's going to compete at the black belt level. And he's like, got this idea that I'm going to go with him and I'm going to compete too. Yeah. And I'm like, if you say I'm ready, then I'm going to go and do. Like, but let's get to that. Yeah. So it's fun. Just the experience, and I like to go. I'll go like 2 or 3 days before I compete, just to walk around and meet people and meet all the people you look at, and a lot of the guys that you follow on Instagram. Right. You're like, hey, that's him. It's just a great experience. And then to go, a lot of our guys from our academy compete at Worlds, so just going to support your teammates. It's fun, and just you're in Vegas, it's fun. Yeah, that's cool. So, you showed some technique earlier. You were in a gi, but prefer gi, no gi. Yeah. So my thing, I'll do once in a while. I'll do a no gi class, but I'm a gi guy. I mean, for all the competitions that I've done over the years, I just did a no gi competition, IBJJF in Santa Cruz, and that was my first time doing no gi competition. And it was like, okay, I did it once, I'm not doing it again. It's just, I just, because
You know, because I laugh. I won my first match, and then I end up losing by advantage on my second match. But it was like I laughed so hard watching the video of both my win and my loss, is because I was going for shit in my mind, thinking that there was a gi there. So you see me reaching for all the shit that I do, you know, but there's no gi there. So I'm like, oh shit, can't do that, and it's just a little out of my comfort zone, and I know I need to work on it more. But yeah, I'm more of a gi guy. You know, I like to choke you out with your gi. You know,
It's funny. One of my guests before, he wasn't. He does a lot of competitions, but wasn't doing gi. And like we talked on the podcast about same thing, gi, no gi, and he actually has apparel out for rash guards, fight shorts. So I'm like, dude, you got apparel out.
Yeah.
You know that's your best advertisement.
Yeah.
Go to a tournament and do no gi.
yeah.
So he signed up for no gi, and he's like, oh, I signed up. But it's out of his comfort zone.
Yeah.
Like for me, that's my comfort zone. Me putting the gi on. It took a long time for me to be consistent wearing the gi to class, right? Because, like I said, our gym is fairly new. We're less than 2 years. So when we first started the class, some of us were taking other classes or teaching other classes and jumping into jiu-jitsu. So like finishing what we're doing and then going changing, you know, it was just easier to jump into class with shorts and a t-shirt, you know. So for a long time I just used that as an excuse, right? And then, you know, a while back I went to Coffee Crew, and I'm the only guy in the whole picture with no gi. And my coach is like, Jose, you need to start wearing the gi. You need to wear it to class. And I didn't realize that I was the only guy with no gi in that picture until he pointed it out. He's all, this is why you're wearing the gi. It's not because I'm putting my foot down. He told me this the other day. It's not because I'm putting my foot down. It's because you went to open mat and you're the only one with no gi. You need to start wearing it. So I've been, yes sir, I got it. So I've been consistent. Like I make sure that I wear it, and it's not the easiest for me, but like the one thing that I think I understand more about the gi now is you have more control. Like grabbing someone's gi slows them down.
Yeah.
So, and it's one thing that I think because we were so open to just anybody wearing whatever in class, that a lot of the guys that have been consistent now, like the last 6 months, still don't realize how important the grips are.
Yeah.
Right? I see them roll and I'm like, grab the gi. Grab the gi. Like this is the no-gi guy saying, grab the gi. Right? So I think we've, you know, emphasized that a little bit more. And like I tell them, especially if they're working with me, and it's funny now, like the other day we're doing like knee shield to underhook. And I know that we're pushing the knee shield through with the hand, but I'm grabbing the lapel and I'm having my forearm against my knee and I'm grabbing the sleeve. I have a sleeve grip and I have a lapel grip and I have the knee shield. I know what I'm doing, but all these guys are just like, I'm getting myself accustomed to grabbing, right? And we're going through the motions. I'm like, I'm in a way I'm thinking, okay, you see me doing it. Why aren't you doing it? Right? But there's no, you know, coaches emphasizing pushing that knee through with the hand and catching that underhook. I have the same idea, but I want to have control at the same time, right? Like, I know the knee shield's not going to work if he's not putting any pressure into it, right? So how do I get him to give me that pressure? Bring it over here, buddy. So, yeah, it's funny how before I was so anti-gi, and now like slowly it's like getting its hooks into me, right? It's grabbing my gi and pulling me in. So
Yeah, so I wear it. I brought it today.
Yeah.
Just in case. Good thing Will was here.
Will was there.
Oh, shoot. So, what's something that with jiu-jitsu that people may not know about you?
I know most are starting to get it now, but throughout my career and my life, I was always the big guy, with the tattoos, working the scary job, and you have that persona of, like we talked about earlier, that alpha male, that type A personality, and I've talked about it with other people before. Is like I'm done with that portion of my life to where you have to be the biggest, baddest guy in the room, and I'd rather be the laid back guy teaching the kids class, having fun, letting them jump all over you. And that's the passion for me is the kids, teaching the kids. I do a lot of work with them and with my dog and jiu-jitsu. I get judged by the outward look, but people don't think I'm just a big teddy bear.
Right.
I love working with kids and stuff, and and jiu-jitsu has taught me that having, I heard a quote, Professor Jay Zabalos, who teaches for Master Jandrak, said it. He's like, you can't possibly know the amount of violence that I've had to go through to be this peaceful. And when he said that, I'm like, man, that's true. I've went through my entire life being a violent guy. Not a bad violent guy, but I had my job was a violent job, and jiu-jitsu has taught me, you can still be violent, but peaceful, but in a peaceful way, and that's what I think it's brought a lot of peace into my life, to where I've had to let go a lot of that anger and that violent portion of me, and just be that peaceful, warrior in a garden kind of thing.
So you mentioned your dog. So Duke, the K9 dog. I heard on the Jean-Jacques Machado podcast, you were talking about that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I seen the clip that you put up on IG yesterday with him and the kids. So can you elaborate a little bit on Duke and how he? There's a kind of form of therapy too, right?
Oh, yeah.
Duke,
Yeah.
like he's with you all the time.
All the time.
If you don't mind elaborating on giving Duke a little
little shout out.
shine.
Before you elaborate on that, let me just do this.
Again?
Yeah.
We're talking too much, too long.
I'm gonna text you the night before and be like, "Hey, put the batteries to right now," and then going down the hole. Like it's so similar to wrestling, but so different. So we good?
Get into Duke.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
K9 Duke, he just turned 8. He's a European Doberman. I bought him actually when he was 8 weeks old from a dude out of San Jose, West Coast Dobermans, and with no intention of him being a police dog. It was just a personal pet. My son was going away to college to play football, and empty nest syndrome. So I figured I'd buy a puppy, and probably about 4 or 5 months into it, I had brought Duke to the police department with me on my day off. I had a meeting, and I went to go to the meeting. Duke was in my truck, and my chief at the time, Bob Johnson, he was a big dog guy. He's like, "Hey, where's your dog? I heard you got a puppy." He's like, I told him, "Yeah, he's in the truck." He's like, "Hell no, bring him in. I'll puppy sit for him." So the meeting went a little long, about 2-3 hours, and I came out, and the chief, he was in his office typing away, and little baby puppy Duke was at his feet asleep. But there's fucking shredded cardboard all over the carpet, and there's like little pee stains everywhere. I'm like, oh crap, my dog just chewed up the chief's office, and and peed on his floor. And I was like, oh, I'm going to get fired, you know? So I walked in, I was all,
Where's the
hey,
mop?
yeah. I was like, hey, sorry, Chief, I'll clean this up. He's like, somebody else would do that. He's like, we had a great time. I let him chew up some boxes. He peed on the floor. He's like, no, he's asleep. I'm like, oh, fuck. So I was still a little nervous. I made a little comment. I'm like, hey, wouldn't that be funny if I made him a dope dog? Because at the time I ran our narcotics unit. And he's like, hey, that's a great idea. Let's talk about it. So I was like, oh, okay. So that kind of dropped the seed a little bit. So I started training with Duke to do like detection work and obedience at a Santa Clara Bay Area canine with Steve there, and we were just doing obedience work, and he started doing scent work and tracking work. And around, I want to say 15 months old, we got sent to canine training. It got ratified. The city was going to pick him up as a canine officer. Got signed off. We get a contract through the city. They rented him for me for $1 a year. So he's mine, but I'm renting him to the police department as a police dog for $1 a year. And went to a 2-week school in South San Francisco, Trident Canine, and they kind of taught me how to be a canine handler. I'd never been one before, and taught Duke how to find drugs. So at the end, we got certified through the state to find narcotics, and we hit the ground running after that. With our team, I was a sergeant for our NET team, narcotic enforcement team, and I had my detectives under me, and you know, we did a lot of proactivity stuff, a lot of undercover work, parole, probation, search warrants, stuff like that, and used Duke numerous times throughout the week. I always joke with people, he's the only gold certified dog in the world. We used to do a lot of work with outside agencies, and I want to say it was San Jose PD called us to do hit a ring of houses, and Duke had hit on this big safe in the back of this house, and so once he alerted, everything in the safe is ours. Opened up the safe, and there was like over $1 million worth of gold bars in this safe, and Duke had some meth in there. So Duke was hitting on the meth, but we were able to seize the over $1 million worth of gold bars from this dude off Duke's nose. So I always joke, I said he's gold certified.
Yeah.
So,
That's crazy.
but I mean, throughout his career, we did about 5-6 years with him before he got forced retired. But millions of dollars off that dog's nose for asset forfeiture. So for the asset forfeiture, for all the drug money that we would locate, we would seize that through civil court from the drug dealers. And you basically turn bad money into good money, to where that money is allocated for the police department for like DARE, buy stuff for the schools, all the drug awareness, all that stuff, to buy equipment to help kids and all that stuff. So that money, once it goes through the civil courts, comes back to that police department. We get a percentage of it. We turn it into stuff for the kids, for drug awareness and things like that. So, but he, about a year and some change ago, he was forced to retire by our now chief. When I left our narcotics unit, went back to patrol, uniform patrol. So he was told to retire. You know, being a working dog and then being retired, he needs a job. So I work with Operation Freedom Paws here locally in San Martin, which is a nonprofit, wonderful company that they find shelter dogs and do an aptitude test and see if they're able to be a service dog. And then they team them up with either a veteran, a kid with some kind of disability, somebody that has TBI, and they pair them up, and they completely train that team to be a service dog team and certify them through Operation Freedom Paws at free of charge.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of these organizations charge, $20,000-$30,000 for a service dog. For a service dog, and Operation Freedom Paws does it for $0 for our veterans, for our first responders, for kids with disabilities, veterans with TBI. They're doing it. I think they've done over 500 service dog teams, and they're charging no money. Wow. So we teamed up with them years ago, Duke, we used to sell shirts, Canine Duke shirts, so we would give the proceeds to Operation Freedom Paws. So Mary, who owns that company in San Martin, we've known each other for 5-6 years now. So once Duke got retired, she's like, have you ever thought about making him a therapy dog? He's doing everything that a therapy dog does already, because we would go to schools, go to the VA, we'd go to hospitals, and we would do outreach with them. And Duke has always loved kids, and kind of opened me up. Before Duke, I was never a kid kind of guy. You know, I didn't like my picture taken, all that stuff. So Duke kind of blossomed me into this community cop kind of thing, I guess. So she's like, you're doing all this stuff already. Let's test him to see if he can pass the therapy dog test. So we put him through the test, and he passed every test with flying colors.
Gold certified.
Gold certified, baby. Expect nothing less. So that's been a year and some change now that we're doing therapy dog work. We got certified through them. So now we do a lot of stuff still with the schools and the VA and veterans. And just recently through Peninsula Self-Defense, we did our first autism class, where we had about 6 or 8 kids that were on the autistic spectrum. And just, introducing them to Jiu-Jitsu and how Jiu-Jitsu can help them. And I brought Duke in, and there's a couple kids that just didn't want to get on the mat, or just stand off the mat. Brought Duke in, and as soon as I brought Duke in, they're like, hey, I'm like, Duke does Jiu-Jitsu too. And I showed him a picture that we had trained with Master Jean-Jacques one time, and Master Jean-Jacques took his coral belt off and wrapped it around Duke.
Oh, nice.
And we took a picture, that picture up there of him wearing
Yes.
Jean-Jacques.
Yeah, we looked at that earlier.
And so I was saying, he's gold certified, and he's the only coral belt Doberman you'll ever find. So I was telling these stories to the kids, and they were so fascinated that Duke was there, and he does jiu-jitsu, and they came on the mat and they started doing the class.
Nice.
So it's just having him as a tool, especially for kids. He bridges that gap for a lot, especially with special needs kids. We have a lot of kids that we have met through social media. There's a couple that we met through social media, and now we consider them family. One Colton and then Jackson. They're both autistic, but we've known them throughout the years because of Duke. They've come over here. I've helped them with jiu-jitsu. They've done, when Duke has gotten a couple awards, they've come over and they talked about Duke on camera and stuff like that. It's just having Duke to be that bridge with the kids. It's having like a special tool that he's always there for these kids. And usually with 148 Jiu-Jitsu, I use him a lot just to promote and be like, I got a coral belt dog. I mean, come on.
Who else has one of those? Some schools have coral belts, but they don't have a coral belt dog. Gold certified. Oh, shoot. All right. So what's your most memorable moment with jiu-jitsu?
I think that's a good one. There's so many. I think having my son and my wife both train, and when having them all 3 train together is great. And then having my son, I remember I got promoted to purple belt the same day my son got promoted to blue belt. And that was pretty emotional to know, my son's 25 now. He's also in law enforcement, and having him promoted from white belt to purple belt, knowing that he's already so far ahead of me at that age, that I know that whatever comes his way in law enforcement, that he's going to be prepared for it. And that was a very emotional day, knowing that, some may think, it's just a blue belt, but as a dad, having your son, that you've done jiu-jitsu for so long, and having your son promote to that rank of blue belt in front of you, and the same day you get promoted to purple belt, I mean, that's something that I'll always remember.
That's cool. I'm still trying to get my kids to join me. Like, one of them keeps saying he's going to. And he hasn't stepped in there yet, but my nephew's in there.
Yeah.
So, is there anything
that you would like to get out there with the podcast, with what you're doing?
I think, we've said a lot, but I think just that what I want mostly to get out, especially with 140 Jiu-Jitsu, is more law enforcement training Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah.
I think if we, especially because through the state, a lot of things are mandated through the state. They call it police officer standing and training, where, you're mandated to have 8 hours of defensive tactics a year. You're mandated to have 8 hours of firearms training a year.
A year.
8 hours. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
A year.
Yeah. I think that's a good why you're doing what you're doing outside of with the BJJ cops and the seminars for first responders. I think that's a real good part of why, like, you understand what the benefits are. And I think what you're doing with that, like I said before, it's great that you're doing that.
Yeah, and I think the more I could do with 148 to bring Jiu-Jitsu to law enforcement and get maybe that 8 hours changed to a little bit more and a little bit more over time, but then make it mandatory that Jiu-Jitsu, that you do Jiu-Jitsu, that whether it's your first 2 years, first 3 years, that the police department pays for your Jiu-Jitsu up to the blue belt level. Imagine if you had an entire police department of blue belts. That's something to be said.
Yeah.
And I know there's agencies back east and down south that are paying for their officers for Jiu-Jitsu, and that throughout their training in the academy and then field training, that they require their officers now to be blue belts. And how cool would that be to have a full police department of entirely trained Jiu-Jitsu practitioners up to blue belt? And like I said before, if they don't take it past the blue belt, that's fine. They at least have the base. But let's hope that maybe half of them keep going. Now you have half your department in 10 years, half of them are black belts. That's a world I'd like to live in.
I'd like to live in that world too. I think the little steps is the beginning, right? I mean, we got to start somewhere.
Yeah, baby steps.
Yeah.
So
Cool. Any advice for the new guys coming in, a little bit older, even the younger ones?
Just stick with it, and I'm sure you've doing it for 2 years now. You've seen people come and go.
Yes.
And it's almost like a rotating door, whether they leave because of family, the job, or it just gets too hard. If you stick with it, you will eventually become a black belt, whether it's 10 years, 15 years, but just stick with it. There's been times where it's like, man, I work a 12, 15-hour shift. I don't want to go train, but you still go train. Just stick with it. If it's 1 or 2 days a week, just keep going, keep grinding.
Right.
Don't quit, because and I'm sure you've gone through with wrestling and jiu-jitsu, you go through peaks and valleys. Some days,
Top of the mountain.
you're top of the mountain, you're that hammer, and then over here you're the nail. And just keep grinding, because you're going to go through ups and downs, peaks and valleys, highs and lows. Just keep going and going and going.
Yeah. Great advice. That's what my instructor, just be consistent.
Yeah.
And like my instructor, he took a hiatus. Life happens.
Yeah, it does.
But as I think once you find that rabbit hole, and once you're, levels into it, it's hard not to want to reach. Because at the end of the day, like, once you start at that white belt.
Yeah.
The goal is to get to that black belt, right? Like, there's a goal. And if you don't have a goal, I mean, small goals, get a stripe, or get to the next belt. Like, in our school, we don't do stripes, so get to the next belt. Yeah. But the ultimate goal, long term, should be train to get to that black belt, and you be consistent, keep showing up, and eventually it's gonna happen.
Yeah, and then keep grinding, keep doing that, what you love to do. But then once, what was told to me by the higher belts and the professor, we do a lot of it at our school. Once you start learning and getting better, always give back to what the guys that are under you. Maybe not at the white belt level, but as a blue, purple, brown, always, everybody's a coach. Everybody can give back. If you learn a new move, new sneaky move, don't keep it to yourself. Teach it to your partners. Be a good training partner and be a good coach is also one of our philosophies at our school.
Yeah, cool.
So, and just keep going. Like my wife, she's been doing it for 3 years, and she's had some major surgeries. She broke her ankle on the mat, shattered her ankle on the mat, so she was off for a while. She's got pins and stuff, and I give her a lot of credit. She's always comes back. Sometimes I'm like, maybe that's, maybe not so soon, because she's a fighter and she's trained in boxing. She's had some professional fights, but she's a straight fighter, and it's always like, she's the one you're like, man, maybe take another week off, let it heal. But, even if like injuries come and go, but just, heal up, get back on the mats.
Yeah. Cool. If anybody wants to reach out for 148 or to talk to you.
So you can do 148 Jiu-Jitsu on IG or K9 Duke, and then Blade 2127. I run 3 accounts. I monitor them all the time, and my wife, I do the jiu-jitsu part of the 148, and she does all the business portion. She sells all the shirts, and she's the brains of the outfit. I'm just the face, I guess. So she does all the dirty work behind the scenes stuff. So we both run the 148 jiu-jitsu account together. So if you want to have any questions, just reach out. We're very responsive. Have any questions, we'll answer it for you.
Cool. Anything else you might want to throw out there?
No, I think we've talked about it. I just want to say thanks for giving us the platform to do this. I really appreciate it. It was an honor to talk to you.
Oh, the honor's mine, man. I'm just getting started.
I could see, when you blow up like Jocko and Rogan, I'd be like, hey, I was on his podcast.
But I mean, there's always a goal, right?
Yeah.
Got to dream big.
That's right. Go for that submission.